Hello and welcome. My name is Sam Feltham, the fitness business dude, and we're lucky enough today to have Mark Tipping with us, who is the owner and franchisor of BodyFix Bootcamp. He's also a bootcamp business builder for bootcamp owners and has a number of workout ebooks online available for download. And today we're going to be talking about franchising and expansion. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good, thanks, Sam. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Excellent.
Cool. So let's dive right into it. Why do you think? Why should you expand your business to multiple sites?
I think there's a lot of different reasons really why people might want to expand the boot camps into multiple sites. The obvious one that I can't really dress up any other way is of course the financial income side of it. There are other perks off the back of there, but again, it's quite a trend in the industry. Everyone's kind of analysing the fact of whether they've got a fitness job or a fitness business a lot at the moment, which is a positive step to take. So if you've got multiple sites with other trainers working for you, in whichever guise it is, of course, you've got that potential to be generating income when you're on holiday, when you're ill, when you're not working. So it doesn't rely on purely you trading your hours for money. On the flip side of that as well, the more, what I've found personally, the more kind of sites we've had and the more boot camps we've operated, the more it's reduced our costs. So things like our printing material, T-shirts, our starter packs and things like that, the costs reduced dramatically now. Now we've got multiple sites from when we first started out, when it was just sort of basically me and my personal camps.
That's awesome. So what options are there for boot camp owners, and which have you personally tried?
I mean, there's quite a few routes that the guys can go down really when you're looking to expand. I've tried a few, and to be honest, before we had the big boot camp operation, we had quite a successful string of boxercise classes. So I got rid of a lot of my teething problems early on there. You kind of main few that I suppose you'd be looking at franchising, which is what we've done now. You could look at a profit split with the instructor. You could look at paying the instructor a flat fee. And then you would potentially have like a licensing, which, to be honest, I'm not really going to mention much today because it's not something I know a huge amount about. But yeah, I mean, personally, we started out with a boxercise doing a profit split, which seemed like a really good idea at the time because there was an incentive there for the instructor to fill the classes or fill the camps. Because they were getting a percentage of the profit, and you know, the more people they had in there, the more they earn. I was still generating income for myself and for the business without actually having to be hands-on. The marketing was all done under one banner, and that was kind of like my first tentative steps. I think the problem that a lot of the guys will have, if they're like me, is that your boot camp or your business is your little baby, and getting someone else involved is quite a big step. People often don't really want to hand the reins over a little bit, which is why, again, as Fit Pros, we often hold on to things a little bit too long, I think. So the profit split is quite a nice controlling one normally, where you can still really keep a tight eye on it. On the negative side to that, it can take up quite a bit of admin time. So you're working out your percentages. If you're using indoor venues, you're working out your whole hire rates. And I'm a big believer that you've got to kind of look at the whole purpose of moving forward and having multiple sites is to increase the revenue or increase the income coming into a business. And if you're spending a lot of extra time doing admin and things like that and chasing up money, it can be more of a negative than a positive. Flat fee, again, I have done that. I still do that actually with some of my cover instructors. Problem with flat fee being there's not a huge incentive for the guys to really keep the campers in the camp and keep the retention high or generate referrals or anything like that. They kind of turn up, take the money and go. That's going to vary, of course. That's a generalisation. That's going to vary instructor to instructor. But in terms of incentives, there is a lot less incentive there on the flat fee. But again, when I've been sussing instructors out in the past and things like that and deciding if someone's the right fit for the business, I have done that. I have done the flat fee. And more recently, probably in the last, what we're looking, 18 to 20 months now, we've had the franchises, which is growing rapidly now. And that's probably been a lot more beneficial for me. The guys have basically been given a business in a box. They get all the structure. They get the support of kind of working under my banner and working with me. But I don't have to worry as much about them because they are self-employed still and they're working to my systems.
That's amazing. So did you encounter any problems or hassles during that sort of teething period of what you were working out to do?
I think, yeah, I mean, the sort of problems and the hassles really were more deciding which was the best route to do it. I mean, franchising is a little bit of a bigger operation than you might expect sometimes. I've got a legally drawn up franchise agreement which kind of outlines the territory that people can work in, and the criteria I expect them to work to. For me, it probably wasn't as bad as it might be for some people because, as you know, I'm a bit of a systems geek. So I kind of have my operations manual and everything all in place right from the off. But yeah, I mean, the main problems or hassles is like anything. I created this product and this idea of how it was going to run, and I've then got to pick that up and hand that over to someone else, and expect them to run it in exactly the same way that I do. And as you find with a lot of the stuff that we do, having the info in your head, it's quite hard putting that into writing sometimes. So when you're writing the ops manuals out, yeah, you could write the systems out, but then it's different people's interpretations. So one thing that I did do, I mean, Rich Hine, who was sort of my first full franchisee, his franchise was very much a learning curve for both of us. He was kind of like learning the system, and I was also learning the kind of problems and issues that can crop up. So one thing that I would recommend before anyone kind of cuts loose is to try and find a guinea pig, so to speak, to trial everything with and get the glitches out. Because again, with what we do with the fitness stuff and the group fitness stuff, a lot of it is personality based. So if we're just delivering purely on our personality, it might not necessarily work for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. So what is important to have in place before you think about expanding? I know we touched on systems just there a minute ago.
Yeah, I think it's quite a few things actually, and things that maybe not everyone's thought about either. There's a lot of things. Of course, you want to protect your intellectual property, which I put a blog post up actually recently on my site about things like your logo and things like that. In an ideal world, people are paying to use your brand and your logo if you're going down the franchising route. So you'd really want to get that trademarked, because that gets classed as your intellectual property. So that would be one kind of key thing straight away. Your identity is being used by other people, so you want to make sure you can protect that. So I would kind of suggest have a look at the Intellectual Property Office website and look into trademarking. It's not as complicated as people often think. Quite often you'll need to trademark it into your category, but it is, it's quite a key thing. And then if anyone else comes along, they can't effectively pinch your business name or try and piggyback on the back of it either. So you want to kind of think about that, get that in place. I'd also suggest making sure you've got a full written operations manual from start to finish, including everything from marketing to how the sessions are going to be delivered, to the warm-up, to the follow-up. In all honesty, on that, you can't have too much detail. I just really think that like the written manual being absolutely idiot-proof is essential to make it a success for the franchisee and for you. Same kind of deal that you have with like your website. The more info you put on it, the less questions you get asked. And it's the same with a franchise manual. The more info you can go into, the more structure you can provide, the less questions that are going to arise and the less kind of margin of error that might crop up. And then, of course, the franchise agreement, which I touched on before. I mean, I've got a template that I've kind of used with some of my mentoring students, but mine was drawn up, by a solicitor. It outlines where the guys can work. Because, I mean, for example, I'm on the outskirts of York. I actually have two other franchisees in York itself, and they both have their own geographical area. So it outlines where they can work, what they can do, the terms and conditions, how they can use the logo. So you've got to really think that, again, going back to like taking your hands off the reins and giving your baby away, you are actually letting someone else work under your brand that you've spent all your time and energy and reputation building up. So it is quite a big step, and you want to make sure that you are well covered and that the guys that are there working for you are going to be using your brand in the way that you want it to be used.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can have like the systems manual and everything like that in place for sure, and you make it as idiot-proof as you can. But you're always going to get questions, and you're always going to have to mentor, aren't you?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I mean that's the way I sort of use mine as well. It is a mentoring program. We do regular meetings. It's not a dictatorship either. It's not a case of I just decide, right, we're doing this, and then they just get an email getting told about it. We'll have a sit down and have a chat about what's working, what's not working, how we can improve it. And again, this is another benefit for me of having franchisees as well, is the fact that you're getting like 5 or 6 heads better than one straight away, and different interpretations and different issues crop up as well. And I mean, I'd got through 2.5 years with never having anyone query me about why the fee was the same month after month, despite there being, they'd got the nutrition manual and everything at the start. And yet, like, I think it was our 4th franchisee when she started, that was one of the questions that she got asked quite early on. So it is still like a bit of a learning curve, and you do develop and evolve and change the franchise manual and the marketing structure as you go. And again, you've got to kind of play to the strengths and weaknesses of each franchisee too.
Definitely. So the big question is, how do you find those right people for you to franchise, or be instructors for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird how things work out sometimes. I'm a bit of a believer in fate at times. Rich, I actually found through the Boxercise website. At the time, again, initially when we first started out, I was looking for Boxercise instructors. Just went through. Found a couple of guys at Boxercise qualified, got them to come through for an interview, got them to take a couple of sample sessions, and went from there. There's other things I've looked at. I mean, I've used Premier Training. I've advertised through them, through the local office in Leeds. And it seems as well that the bootcamp franchise seems to appeal to a lot of the army resettlement guys. I get a lot of inquiries from people that are coming out of the army and have done the Premier Diploma, and are wanting to move into it that way. Another one of my guys came to me as a recommendation. It was actually personal training a friend of mine. I think if you can get people like that, that's a really strong way of doing it. If you get someone that's already successful and has got a bit of a following. I've got a couple of people that are on the waiting list at the moment wanting franchises that are group exercise instructors, fairly strong reputation. They've got a following of people with them, and they're wanting to take it to the next level and kind of really up the service level and increase the nutritional contributions and stuff like that. So finding the right people is, it's probably the most important thing. You can have the best manual in the world and the best product, but if the people in there are wrong, it's never really going to quite work how you want it to work. So I kind of have a little criteria that I use now as well, their suitability for self-employment. Because you'll sometimes get people that are maybe a gym instructor and have got the right paper qualifications, but have maybe not got the right motivation or the right drive to actually be self-employed and run this franchise. And whilst, they've got me to bounce off and run ideas by and any questions and come back to, they've still got to have the motivation to get up and want to make a success of things. So I kind of have like a 5 or 6 stage process that people go through before even considered for a franchise now. And a lot of it evolves around, is this right for you? Is this going to be the right way of working for you? Because, I mean, even the Premier Careers lady gulped a bit when I told her, they asked you what the on-target earnings are. And I kind of told her that for 9 hours work a week, there's potential to earn about 72 grand. And bearing in mind, she's a fitness careers lady, and she was kind of gulping at me and sort of saying, really? So it's a case of trying to steer clear of people just looking at the pound signs and thinking that they're coming in for an easy ride and everything's going to fall in their feet. Because, I mean, as you know, being a bootcamp owner yourself, it takes a bit of work, and it's not just a case of those 9 hours of the week when you're delivering the sessions. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And yeah, sort of what sort of are those 5 stages? Is it just sort of a series of interviews, or do you get them to fill out like an application? Or
well, basically, generally speaking, people will kind of apply and register interest. I send them out like a 4-page PDF document, which, in all honesty, I do my best to put them off in. Again, it's a tactic a lot of people use, but it's kind of, Dr. Moy calls it a gatekeeper strategy. And it's kind of getting rid of anyone that's not that serious about it. So if you make it slightly trickier than just a case of clicking on a button or turning up, you'll sort out the ones that really want to do it, basically. So yeah, we start off with they get the info pack. If they're still interested after I've tried to put them off, then they fill out the application form. Once the application form comes in, if I think they're suitable and have answered the questions right, we'll do generally a phone interview, or a Skype interview. We've had inquiries from up and down the country. I've got a mate in New Zealand who's actually trialling at the moment to see just how far we can push it. By how far afield we can work this and get it to work effectively still. But yeah, so they get the application form. If that comes back and I'm happy with that, then we arrange a face-to-face interview, and I kind of make my call off the back of there, really. So it's not just a case of someone turns up and if they've got the right amount of money to pay the initial franchise fee, that they get a franchise, really.